We are so privileged to be joined by the Keystone Heights Junior Senior High School Band, as well as their advanced guitar class under the direction of Justin Coker and David Golden, their music teachers. So before we begin with the musical presentation, we're going to have a presentation of colors. So if you all would please rise. And this is the Keystone Heights Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps. If you would join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated and enjoy the musical presentation.
This is half and half chorus class and guitar class. They're combining their superpowers.
Let's give them one more round of applause. That was fantastic, Indians. So tonight we are joined by Pastor Greg Larson from First Baptist Church, Keystone Heights, and he will be providing our invocation, but we're going to give the music students just a moment to finish up putting their equipment away.
All right, let's pray. Father, your word says in Psalm 124, verse 8, our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. O Father, gracious, righteous, and merciful, Lord, may your name be exalted above all things. You are so good to us, and we praise you for your many blessings. Thank you for your many provisions in our life, both spiritual and physical. Lord, thank you for life. Thank you for breath. Thank you for health, and thank you for all that you give us. And thank you for all of these people in this room that serve our community. And we ask that you would give us wisdom today, knowing that from your mouth comes knowledge and understanding. May glory be to you, Most High God, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
We've already said the pledge, so if we want to be seated, I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, citizens of Clay County. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend tonight's school board meeting. This meeting is our opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly and to make decisions that will decide the future direction of our public schools and the education of our children here in Clay County. If you wish to address the board on an agenda item, there will be an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Please fill out a card located at the side entry door indicating the specific item number or topic you wish to speak about and turn it in promptly to one of our officers. If you have items that you would like to present to the school board or to the superintendent, please hand them to an officer who will distribute them accordingly. No additional cards will be accepted once the board moves to the public comment section under presentations from the audience. Your participation is always welcomed and appreciated. So we're going to begin tonight's meeting with some recognitions and awards. First will be Mr. Broski presenting a recognition for outstanding 2023-2024 school volunteers.
Good evening. David Broski, my address is on file. I've always wanted to say that. It's my pleasure tonight to give 3 volunteers an award. You know, one of the things you always want to do as a school system is reach out to the community. Our strategic plan, one of the goals within the strategic plan is to do that very thing. And one of the key ingredients to that is public recognition of people that do outstanding volunteer work within Clay County schools. And there's actually 3 different categories. And the first one that we're going to recognize is the student category. And our youth volunteer of the year, you have to be under 20 years old in order to receive the award, is Mr. Tyler Davies of Orange Park High School. Tyler, if you can come on up here. Let me tell you a little bit about this young man. Okay, now I get to brag about you. You can come stand next to me, I won't bite. Okay, this young man, if I could adopt somebody and claim them as my own, maybe a third son, this would be the guy right here. 850 hours of volunteering. Tyler's volunteered in so many different organizations in our community, and most notably Orange Park High School, where if you go there, there's actually a banner of him in AutoMech. Is that not true? Okay. I refer to him as Mr. Orange Park High, right? If you say to anybody, what student is Mr. Orange Park High, they'll quickly say Tyler Davies. His work as student president of the Community Partnership Program currently, and is involved with them since their inaugural year. So many things to brag about with Tyler. The clothes closet, the food pantry, giving to his community, truly has a servant's heart as a student. He's also happens to be president or chair of the Superintendent Student Advisory Council. So I see Tyler every month, and I see him interact with other students, and I see the leadership qualities that he has. He's an incredible, incredible young man. So without further ado, our student volunteer of the year, Mr. Tyler Davies. Group picture? Okay. Next, we also recognize we're now in the 21 to 61 range. Okay, they actually do it by age. Okay. This individual in Bronco Nation knows her well. Jamie Russell. Jamie Russell, come on down. Let me brag about you. After serving as the school SAC committee, on the school SAC committee and learning the struggles and barriers many students at MHS face, Jamie worked with the MHS Broncos Give Back team to provide a wide range of community support for all students in the Give Back program. Hundreds of items were collected and then distributed to students in Bronco land. She also has worked with community groups such as the Clay County Farm Bureau, the Florida Peanut Producers Association, to increase the participation in the program and target the holidays as a time for much-needed supplies for students away from school. Additionally, Jamie volunteers in CTE, and is quite a familiar face, serving on the design, build, construction advisory board there, a judge for career and tech organizations, competitions, Middleburg FFA alumni, and the list goes on and on. Very, very involved. And I'll tell you the most interesting thing was when I went out to give her a certificate a week ago, maybe, just watching her interact with people there, you thought she owned the place. Okay. She says, don't tell Mr. Aftuck, but I do. Like, she walked in like she worked there. She was totally comfortable and is just a transitional leader at Middleburg High School. So without further ado, Jamie Russell. And finally, in our senior division, I went out to Doctors Inlet Elementary and saw firsthand this gentleman, over 19 years of volunteering at Doctors Inlet Elementary. So David Everington, would you come on down? Mr. Everington's on the Doctors Inlet campus at least 2 days every week for the last 19 years. Okay, that's a volunteer right there. Let me say, he's created a school garden in which students can learn and cultivate the love of plants and herbs. He maintains all of the areas of campus that need to be covered. He attends the weekly Green Thumb Club meeting to students and teach them about gardening, safety, and responsibility. And let me tell you in particular, what I saw there was the interaction from particularly young men, right, looking up to a figure there. It was quite heartwarming when I went there. So without further ado, our senior volunteer, David Everington. Just thank you so much to all of our volunteers.
Well, thank you guys so much for what you do to support students in our schools every day. Now we are going to move to the recognition of the 2023-2024 School-Related Employee of the Year, Teacher of the Year, and Rookie of the Year. And we have from the Clay Education Foundation, G. Teven, Michael Rathjen, and I don't see Jennifer Young.
Terry,
Terry
yeah.
Hicks.
Jennifer had last minute meeting come up, so Good evening, school board members, and good evening, parents. Most of you don't know me. My name is G. Teven. Most importantly, really, do you guys know about Clay Education Foundation? Yes, okay. Just a shameless plug, we do have our Spring for Education coming up fundraiser. So, if you don't know anything about Clay Education Foundation, that's a really good time for you to come and support the event and the foundation. So as I've said, my name is G. Teven, chairwoman of Clay Education Foundation, and here with me is my vice chair, Michael Rathjen with ViStar, and Terry Hicks, our treasurer, who basically, that's important, right? Because without him, then we don't have Teacher of the Year. He also works for Office Max Office Depot, who is a big supporter for Clay Education Foundation. Our mission at Clay Education is to create meaningful partnerships. It's between the community, the businesses, like with ViStar and Office Max, and the school board and the parents. And so tonight, we want to, on behalf of the board of directors for Clay Education, we want to acknowledge the work of somebody who epitomizes this partnership. So she has been a big supporter of the foundation for the past 8 years. So when we started, the foundation, I think we've been here for maybe about 15 years, and we were known for basically one event, which was the Teacher of the Year. And that's what we did, basically just Teacher of the Year every year, and we basically just kind of like broke even. We did the event, we supported the teachers, and then we tried to raise funds for the Teacher of the Year every year, that's it. And now it's grown 15 years later, 8 of which one of our school board member has been a big supporter. Now we have, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, which is, now we're on national news, right? And through the Clay Education Foundation. And we have the teacher supply store. How many here are teachers? Okay, and you guys have visited the teacher supply store, right? 4 times a year. So we did it before once a year. Now we have 4 times a year. And the Teacher of the Year actually gets or got like 3 years from 3 years now, got a car from Garber, who has donated the space for our teacher supply store. So I can go on and on and on about this, but without the support of this important person from our school board, this wouldn't really have happened. So Mary, thank you very much for all the support you've given us. Would you be able to come down here so that we can give you our plaque that, I'm sure you have a lot of already. And I think this deserves a standing ovation, right? Standing ovation, right? And we're really sad that, she is not going to be attending our meetings anymore. But we're super excited, Miss Skipper. And so, she's now our ex officio. But, going back to Mary, we're really sad. So, thank you. And shameless plug, Spring for Education, don't forget, April 25. And Mary, if you can just stay here while we recognize our Teacher of the Year. But can you speak up?
I just want to say thank you. When I started with the foundation 8 years ago, my first year as a school board member, it was one of those, okay, we have to make assignments to people. Who's going to take on the foundation? And I was like, I got one of the grants for great ideas. I'll be happy to. As a teacher, the grants for great ideas were huge for just those opportunities to expand our curriculum just enough to give kids hands-on experiences or to give kids opportunities to work with different manipulatives in math or science fair type project tools, et cetera. And This is a picture of me with children, with a number of students at the junior high. And this is what it's all about, guys. Supporting our children, first and foremost. And that's exactly what the foundation does. And it's been an incredible 8 years, and I very much appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.
And I did forget to mention that she has been really a big advocate, not only for, the foundation, but really primarily for the students and the teachers. So thank you so much for that. So then, Michael.
Awesome. Good evening. I have the pleasure of introducing this year's Teacher of the Year. So I don't know if you got a chance to be at the celebration or see the great work that's being done and celebrated across Clay County, but we would like to publicly recognize Miss Robin Campbell from Wilkinson Junior High. She could, if she's here. Well, if she's here tonight. Yes, awesome. Nice. Yes. So she is one of the most recent recipient of that Garber Auto Mall vehicle. I'll say a few quick words about Ms. Campbell. She's a science teacher at Wilkinson Junior High. She inspires her her students to reach higher and higher levels of achievement, and she never sets a limit for how high they can go. She truly believes in how students can and will achieve higher levels of success when they leave her classroom from the time they entered. Ms. Campbell possesses an innate ability to infuse enthusiasm and curiosity into every scientific concept that she introduces. She makes complex subjects accessible, fostering an environment where questions are encouraged and they are celebrated. Her interactive teaching methods, from captivating experiments to engaging discussions, turn the classroom into a discovery laboratory. So additionally, Ms. Campbell serves on Wilkinson Junior High's science department as the head chair there for their department, and she also serves as the science fair coordinator, and she is one of the professional educator competency mentors. So she's often the first to volunteer for events on campus, and she even serves as one of the academic team judges. So Ms. Campbell has her master's degree in educational leadership, and she also assists the administrative team with roles throughout the school year as well. So very much well received. Congratulations. Awesome.
I would like to recognize our school-related employee of the year, Philip Totoro, ISS assistant at Doctors Inlet Elementary. Yeah. Mr. Totoro serves as the internal school suspension liaison at Doctors Inlet Elementary. As a former school counselor, Mr. Totoro set a goal to remove the stigma of ISS being a place of punishment and replace it with a place of social, emotional, and educational growth. In addition to his ISS responsibilities, Mr. Totoro created a 3-part school-wide mentoring program to foster and build positive relationships with students outside the standard classroom setting. Join me in congratulating Mr. Philip Totoro as School-Related Employee of the Year.
Okay, we have one more. This is a new category this year, but unfortunately, she's unable to be here with us tonight. But we'd like to publicly recognize Miss Allison Sanders from Keystone Heights Elementary School. She was recognized this year as our first ever Rookie of the Year through the Clay County Education Foundation. So a round of applause for Allison. Awesome.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all that you guys do to support the teachers here in Clay County. You guys are amazing partners. So we are going to move now to our school showcase, and we have with us the fearless leader of the Keystone Heights Junior Senior High Indians, Miss Lori Burke, here to tell us about all the fantastic things happening in Keystone.
Our students did so good in their performance. You don't know how scary that is for teenagers to come up here and perform in front of everyone. And they've had a busy day today because this morning they performed at our Veterans Recognition Ceremony. First thing this morning at 8 o'clock, so it's been a very busy morning for them. I'm so proud of them. So, all right. So actually, our ROTC just passed their annual inspection with a 97%. So they were super excited about that. And then our, I got to tell you about our guitar class because a lot of them couldn't come tonight. There's a huge guitar-like advanced class. And they, Fridays especially, sunny blue sky, and you can just hear them all over campus. And sometimes it's like a Jimmy Buffett song. And I can just pretend for a split second that I'm on the beach, kicked back somewhere, and listening to them play. So they do such a good job. I appreciate you all having them here tonight. It means a lot to them. All right, so thank you so much for showcasing Keystone Heights Junior Senior High School tonight. And I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what we do, and then ask you to sit back and watch an awesome video to get a little glimpse. Teaching and learning at our school has been led by some amazing teams to cultivate and refine our students' academic progress. We've made gains and are so proud of the work our students have put in. Last summer, I was able to get some great ideas from the NASSP conference and put into our school, and we've practiced it all year. So we used, to start the school year, we started this year with a goal of 100% success. This looks different for each student without me going into that for the sake of time, but you know that 100% success looks different for every student. Teachers and students have dug deep into learning and have grown through strong instruction. Our teachers have pulled together even more than ever before. One team in particular is our TWIX team. It stands for Together We Instill Excellence. Therefore, this year we called it Operation Excellence because we are taking flight to new heights in Keystone Heights, and you'll see what I'm talking about when you see the video. This team is a group of teachers and instructional assistants who collaboratively teach students in all of our classes to provide specially designed instruction tailored to individual student needs. And our literacy team creates a school-wide lessons for all of our students that focus on building vocabulary. Students learn new words and their definitions twice a week during tribe time. We also blast the word of the day on the morning announcements and throughout their classroom lessons. Our department chairs, also another team, they're leading their teams in the work of instructional focus using the best standards. And through all of our work, our proficiency scores have increased in the following areas. Civics, we increased by 19 points. And 8th grade ELA and 8th grade science both increased 9 points each. And our biology has increased 4 points. We are watching our FAST PM scores very closely, and we're already seeing the positive growth in the math and ELA and PM too. So far this year, we have huge focus on our faculty, staff, and student recognition. We have our Indian Strong standards, and we have special recognitions each week for them to make them Facebook famous. They love that. You should see the students' faces light up when we recognize them. In something like this, we're not recognizing students who are recognized for great athletic ability and they're just 4.8 GPAs. We'll recognize students who make an improvement and growth every day. And when they come down, their faces light up. I can't tell you how much it means to those students to just get that recognition that they may not would have gotten their whole high school career. So it's pretty awesome. Our Indian Strong acronym stands up for show up, work together, give respect, never give up, and use grit to get it done. We also reward students constantly with our Indian Bucks, and they can spend them at our Indian Buck store during lunch. The students love this. We also have fun events for our students that they earn with good grades, good attendance, good discipline, to attend quarterly pancake breakfasts, dances, and award ceremonies, and the end of the year grade level events, and much more. Students in our positive behavior support classes, they can earn rookie, legend, and superstar status, and they can even get a delicious fast food Friday. Our community supports our schools tremendously, and all of these initiatives with money, donating goods, and volunteering. One major accomplishment to mention, also moving on to our 3-time state championship boys weightlifting team. You all have recognized them here several times, so I'm sure you all remember. And they've won both in the Olympic and traditional titles, and they're quite amazing to say the least. And all of our sports provide an excellent school culture. Our CTE programs are going strong. We just recently had our CTE culinary class compete and made it all the way to the Orlando Universal Handheld Competition. That's pretty cool. And we do have the best culinary kitchen in Clay County, by the way. We really do. You'll have to see our kitchen if you have not seen it. Our school's opportunity for growth will the work we're doing now to grow strength and learning in our students with disabilities. We have improved their overall proficiency from 38 to 42% so far, and we're continuing the work towards our 100% success. All of our students, through our strong district collaborative professional development, next steps for us is to expand our web crew tribe with sponsorships and active leadership roles within the student leadership groups. These students bring about an inclusive experience to all of our incoming 7th grade and new students and lead throughout the school year. I would like to also recognize my awesome administrative team for the hard work they do every day to make this all possible. Ms. Rodriguez, Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Underwood, who can't be here tonight because he's at Middleburg High School with his daughter in the Miss MHS. We're making a difference, and now you can watch our video to catch a glimpse. I was supposed to point at them when it's time to go. I can't see them, but they're going to go. we don't have to watch it again. But there you have it. Thank you so much for having us here tonight.
Thank you so much, Ms. Burke. So this will be the last call for comment cards. If there are any hanging out in the audience that you'd like to turn in before we move on to the public comment portion of the agenda, now will be the last call. So if you have one, please hold it up so we can see. All right, seeing none, we're going to move to the presentations from the audience. Our first speaker is Evelyn D. Hillman. As a reminder, when you come up to the podium, please state your name and your address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. The timers are on the screens. And we ask that if you're making a comment about an employee, that we don't name employees from the podium. And if you're addressing the board, you address the board as a whole. Ms. Hillman.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to you this evening. Just to give you a little bit about myself, I have a PhD in guidance and counseling education from the University of Michigan and have devoted most of my life to education. I spent 15 years as an overseas missionary teaching teachers in Nigeria, in Haiti, and in the Congo. Most of my education career in school was in the Detroit Public Schools, and my last assignment there was the principal of a career voc tech high school. So I'm urging you to consider seriously the importance of a good, strong vocational education for youngsters before they graduate from high school. I had trouble when we first opened the school because I was opening it, and some of the parents said, we don't want our kids to go into vocational. But I said, vocational couldn't be an end, not the end. It can be an intro into what you would like to do. So if you want to get a college education, you earn a lot more money as a big chef assistant, because culinary was ours, rather than flipping hamburgers at McDonald's. So think about vocational education. It's very important. Before my time ends, though, I do want to say that I Googled the whole idea of banned books. And I'm sad to say that it said that the most banned books in the US is in Clay County, Florida, and that it was mostly instigated by one person, but more books banned. That is not education. Education is opening the mind, giving an opportunity for youngsters to get a broad spectrum so that they can make wise decisions. So please think about that. That's not a good distinction for Clay County.
Next is Shannon Hubie.
My name is Shannon Hubie, and my address is on file. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am here tonight with a heavy heart, but a sense of gratitude that cannot be ignored. I feel compelled to express my deepest appreciation to Clay County Schools and to making me a better person and a better parent. Some of you might find it surprising that I stand before you tonight praising a system that has failed my children, but it is truth. It is because of those failures, like having my children's IEPs reviewed by an educational advocate who immediately noticed that one child was behind 3 grade levels, based on the present levels shown in the IEP provided by Clay County School District. After reviewing previous IEPs, it was further noted that over the course of several years, my child was never afforded an opportunity to have scientifically peer-reviewed direct reading instruction. It took an advocate 1 meeting to fight for it using the school district's own data to get it approved. Why does it take a parent having to bring an outside advocate to fight for our students? Why can't the district follow the data and the law and do what they're supposed to do so our children can be well educated? My children have been failed numerous times over the course of their short educational career in Clay County schools, and let me give you yet another example happening just recently. In the last 2 months, I have had a son with a broken arm that was dismissed by the school nurse because there was no broken skin, and according to the notes sent home, nothing to even clean. He was sent back to class twice with an ice pack after seeking help that his arm hurt. After I reviewed the incident on video with the principal, I clearly pointed out the way he was carrying his arm showed that it was injured. Then this week, my nonverbal child was sent back to class with a Band-Aid on his knee after he supposedly slipped on the playground stairs. Only later, after seeing a large bruise on his back, and then he started vomiting, did I find out he actually fell between 2 and 3 feet from a climbing wall on the playground, and now has a mild concussion. Parents can understand what transpires when they are told the actual truth. But when parents have to confront the schools to find out exactly what happened, that is a different story. No nurse employed by our district should dismiss a potential severe injury based on a basic first aid care and overlook and a child's reaction. My children have a higher than normal threshold for pain due to their specific disabilities. But it is through these struggles and challenges that my children face with the school system that I was motivated to seek out classes to better understand the complexities of the individual educational program and special education laws. I took it upon myself to become educated on how to effectively advocate for my children and others who may be facing similar challenges. I am grateful for the opportunity to grow and learn through these experiences, and I'm eternally grateful to Clay County for providing me a platform to become a stronger advocate for my children and all children who deserve a fair and inclusive education. Tonight, I stand before you with a renewed sense of purpose and determination, and I will continue to fight for the rights and opportunities of all children, regardless of their learning differences or challenges. Thank you, Clay County Schools, for igniting a fire within me to make a difference in the lives of our child.
Next is Holly Bishop.
My name is Holly Bishop. My address is on file. Good evening. I'm a military veteran's wife and mom of 3, 2 of whom attend LAE, and I've resided in Clay almost my entire life, graduated right here at this school. Both my eldest children have IEPs. My oldest with ADHD has had a mediocre experience here in Clay, but my son with Down syndrome has not. His name is Beckett. Mid-COVID, we left military life, landed in St. John's. After navigating homeschooling and poor placement options for him, we decided to come home to Clay, built our home exactly where we did because of the amazing things we had heard of LAE, especially the ESE department. We uprooted our entire family in search of better for our children, and I can't tell you how much of a mistake we feel we've made. Mid-December, another mom witnessed my son being verbally abused by his para, and she immediately reported to the teacher, who assured her it would be brought to the administrators. By mid-January, this mom realized I was never told, so she bravely told me. The principal then conducted an investigation, but we were told all the security footage of the event had already been rewritten, and all adults present denied having seen any such event. That was all that would be done. I requested policies and procedures for events like this for the future. No clear definition was given. I asked what happened after the teacher shared the report with another staff member. Again, no clear answer. That para still remains at the school, but no longer near my son. In January, Beckett moved to a new ESE class, giving him more opportunities for inclusion. Immediately, he started having negative behaviors. Not in the inclusion settings, but the ESE classroom. Initially, I was frequently called by the new teacher and behavior site coach asking me what they should do. After sharing all I could, they stopped calling and resorted only to sending home daily communication logs listing all his negative behaviors. Not a single positive remark. After a month of meetings, we finalized his IEP on February 26th, yet 8 days later, his teacher invoked Article 10 and had him removed from her class. No reason was given. That was 2 days ago, and I have yet to receive any written document on the change of placement, reason for the removal request, or a meeting notice, simply just a call that he would return to his original teacher and we could meet after spring break. I was told we could verbally ask for the reason, but if we wanted any further communication, we'd have to submit a public records request. He was communicating with behavior. Something wasn't working. Not only was teacher communication limited, but his paras weren't even allowed to speak to us. February 27th, we brought cupcakes for his 9th birthday, and I leisurely asked his aide how his day was going. She said we had to wait and speak to his teacher, who was conveniently not present. Again, came home another log of his behaviors with no context. The behavior coach, staff, and Beckett needed expert help, and the district BCBA and RBT were never called to find solutions. 2 months were wasted. Our kids deserve better. The ESE teachers and staff need more support, and not only did he suffer, but so did his peers and teachers. We wonder why we can't retain our ESE staff. The lack of transparency and accountability and minimal support for our ESE students is a testament to the mismanagement of our schools. They aren't star athletes or honor students, but they aren't any less worthy of your attention and care. Beckett isn't a second-class citizen. He deserves to be treated with compassion and consideration, just like every other student in Clay County. Thank you so much.
Next is Constance Higginbotham.
My name's Constance Higginbotham. My address is on file. It's National Women's History Month, and I just want to share you with a story about how women got the vote. In August of 1920, the struggle between the suffrage movement and the powerful anti-suffrage forces had come to a series of votes. Before the 19th Amendment could be passed, it had to be ratified by 3/4 of the state in the Union. The suffrage movement found a way to get Congress to approve the proposed 19th Amendment with the endorsement of the outgoing president, Woodrow Wilson. By the middle of 1920, a total of 35 states had voted to ratify the amendment. The problem was 36 states were needed. Only 5 states, Tennessee, Kentucky, Vermont, North Carolina, and Florida, might ratify the 19th Amendment. But only one state had the opportunity to take the vote before the year end. That state was Tennessee. The remaining states had rejected the amendment, but Tennessee decided to tackle the ratification vote. Supporters from both sides camped outside the Nashville Hotel and began intensive lobbying efforts in what would become known as the War of Roses. Supporters of the suffrage wore yellow rose in public, and anti-suffragists wore red roses. The suffragists had lobbied Harry T. Byrne, the youngest member of the State House, only 24, but they were unsure still of how he would vote. They did know that if any vote to bring the amendment to the floor, it would be close to the call, as well as the vote to ratify the amendment. The risks were high. On August 18th, the legislature voted on a motion to table any ratification vote. It seemed as if the anti-suffragists had enough votes to delay the 19th Amendment vote after Byrne arrived in the room wearing a red rose, but he voted to table the amendment. Another representative, Banks Turner, switched sides during the roll call, leaving the vote deadlocked and moving the ratification toward a vote. The suffragists would need one more vote to make the 19th Amendment a law. Byrne, who came from a conservative district and wore a red rose on his lapel, surprised everyone when he said in a clear voice, "Aye," when he would ask if he would ratify the amendment. Burns also had a letter in his pocket from his mother, Phoebe Byrne, in which she asked her son to be a good boy and vote for the amendment. When Turner also voted in favor of the ratification, the 70-year battle for suffrage was over. On August 26, 1920, the official documents arrived in Washington, D.C., and they were signed by the Secretary of State. In honor of Women's History Month, the Clay County Education Retired is conducting a writing contest for secondary students. We're asking students in grades 7 through 12 to tell us about a woman in sports and her accomplishments. We're holding this writing contest to enhance the writing skills of our students and to increase the awareness of women in sports and their impact in the community. We chose women in sports because the Florida legislature has determined that physical education should have a writing assignment. And why not write about a sports figure? This contest has been circulated through the superintendent's office and will run for the month of March. We look forward to reading those essays and recognizing those winners. Thank you.
Next is Bruce Friedman.
Hello, everybody. Bruce Friedman, address on file. First speaker mentioned that we're leading, and we are, first place in book bans. We haven't banned a single book. They're all available at the public library, various vendors. online. Last month, as a result of my team's efforts, 32 more titles were removed district-wide. This month, I'm submitting 40 more challenges and a considerable amount of other paperwork. Your team will figure it out when they look at it. The books that have been pulled are porn. The fact that I have also challenged things that are not porn, I had my reasons. A lot of times that was what it took to get the dialogue to this level. But apparently you are about to review and approve policy changes that do include a rubric and a guideline, which, as I recall, is what I asked for over a year and a half ago when my mic started getting turned off for telling the truth. So now the truth is out. The libraries are still filled with porn. I found more last month. I'll find more next month. By then, hopefully, you will have gotten to the point where you can approve this policy and start to clean up the mess. The policy doesn't have a clear mechanism for cleaning up the mess, doesn't have a timeline for it, and it opens the gate to future purchases before the old mess is cleaned up, which I think is a terrible mistake. But as I recall, every time I comment on your potential policy changes, you do what you do anyway. So I'm going to just let that happen. Tonight's delivery is 40 challenges, 20 what I'll call revisits. These things have gone through your process. They've been appealed. The appeals sat in a limbo for over a year because your team just doesn't address them ever. And as a result of that, porn sat on the shelves for over a year. Not all of them, just enough that you have liability. So you can thank me for protecting you from that by addressing these revisits when they reach your desk. Have a great time. Thank you.
Next is Judith Chappelle.
Good evening. My name is Judith Chappelle, and my address is on file. I have two quick issues that I wanted to go over. The first one is the bus schedule. We started out so well. Buses were on time. Everyone was getting picked up and delivered on time, and I just don't know what happened. Right now, since February the 23rd, there have been 12 different bus substitutions that has happened in my area just alone. My granddaughter's bus has been late. Bus has been substituted. Kids have been crammed on one bus. Bus has been just really a bad situation where it's to the point that it's dangerous that there are 4 and 5 kids sitting on one seat. And so it's really gotten to be really a very dangerous situation. I'm hoping that during the spring break that situation gets taken care of. I'm sure it's a bus shortage, I'm sure it's a bus driver shortage, and it's probably not just something that's specific to Fleming Island. My next issue I wanted to bring up real quick, the opt-in, opt-out library policy. I did take 3 hours out of my life at 66 years old to watch the workshop, and I wanted to speak a little bit about the opt-in, opt-out policy. My concern about us having that, it was mentioned that when we send out a slip to parents, that we only get back 70%. I want to speak to being a part of the 70%. I know that there's a lot of time that we talk about we don't get back enough feedback from parents. As a part of the 70%, I don't really like analogies, but I want to use a few analogies. It would be like you actually having a parent not send in a permission slip for a child to go on a field trip. It would be like me not signing a slip for my child to go to the clinic. It would be like me not signing a slip for my child to join a club, for my child to join a sport, me not signing for my child to join a team. All of those things you need me to opt in for them to do that. And so the same thing I believe holds true for my child to go to a library, to go and actually see the books that are on the shelves, especially with the content that we know is in the library. I also believe that on this opt-in slip that we should sign, it should have what we know could actually be in that library and allow parents, the 70% that will, sign and send it back, signed and send it back. But those that will not, their kids just can't go to the library. Thank you.
Next is Adam Warren.
Good evening. My name's Adam Warren, and my address is on file. It's going to be real brief tonight. I just wanted to take this time to thank the board and you, Mr. Brusky, for your swift response to the issues that I brought forth to you last month. As it is unfortunate it did take me speaking last month, it is still very much appreciated. I am encouraged by the continued response and looking forward to what is in the future. The work isn't over, but we're finally on the right path. Thank you for your time.
Next is Tanya Caxon.
Good evening, Tanya Casson. My address is on file. In 2022, the community came together to elect new school board members that would respect the rights of all parents and work to implement policies that reflect the values of the parents and what we want for our schools and our children. We believed that we thought that the election results would signify a change in the district and that we would start to see parental rights being respected. What I failed to understand was that we have a whole slew of unelected bureaucrats at the district office that show a complete and total disregard for parental rights and the wishes and direction of our school board. Over the past 2 years, it's become apparent that our community have serious, ongoing, and pervasive issues with pornography in our schools. To the parents and community members here and at home, we are not talking about love stories. We are not talking about romance stories. We are talking about rape. We are talking about incest, even pedophilia. We are not talking about a couple of books, as Ms. Bola suggested, maybe they slipped through the cracks. What we are talking about is over 300 individual titles that violate the law. All right. During this workshop, I learned that Ms. Hansen had been working very, very hard to get stakeholders together, get some input, and find out a path forward that protected every single parent in Clay County. The result of that was that we would have an opt-in policy that gave parents the opportunity to have informed consent for the libraries. Our unelected bureaucrats decided that that wasn't good enough, and they circumvented the will and the writings of Ms. Hansen in this policy and changed it on their own with no direction from the board to an opt-out. During the same meeting, we listened to Clay County District employees explain that the opt-out policy was necessary because parents just won't sign the form. Is the Clay County School District suggesting that parents are too dumb, too distracted, too uninvolved, or too lazy to sign a single form? We also heard from many specialists that oppose an opt-in policy. One asked when they were going to get trust again. When are parents going to trust us again? Perhaps we'll trust you again when you respect our right to have informed consent for the libraries. I heard another one that talked about, she gave a situation where a student had brought a book that contained pornography and violated the law to her attention. And while I really, really appreciate her honesty, this is the problem. The books are still there. And unless the district could tell me with 100% certainty that my child wouldn't pick up a book that described a dad raping his daughter and she giving birth to her father's children, like we found already, unless you can guarantee that, you need my permission first. We're not willing to allow the district to hide it behind an opt-out policy. This is a PR ploy that creates an illusion of parental consent. It does not provide parental consent. Board, I urge you to maybe disregard what the district has done, what that person, the unelected bureaucrats have done, and really vote for an opt-in policy like you intended to do. Thank you.
All right, that concludes presentations from the audience. We'll now be moving to the discussion agenda. We have 3 special actions. So Do I have a motion for Human Resources Special Action A?
Move approval.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion from Ms. Bola and a second from Ms. Hanson. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, special action B. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval.
I have a motion from Ms. Hanson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ms. Clark. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, special action C. Do I have a motion
I'll move approval.
and a second?
I'll second.
Motion from Ms. Bola, a second from Ms. Skipper. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then item D4, the 2024-2025 allocation package. Do I have a motion?
7. Move approval.
I have a motion from Ms. Bola. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ms. Clark. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, that concludes our discussion agenda.
Madam Chair,
It's
Yes.
not up yet.
I would like to talk about something on the agenda.
Okay, on the discussion, on the consent agenda?
yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
sure.
Okay. So there's a couple of things that I would like to address. I always take notes when people are speaking because I feel like you give up your time, and I should take that very seriously. So a couple of things that I would like to address. Indeed, the district and I have been helping, are taking great care in developing and finishing a rubric that reflects the board's community standards. Within that rubric, there will be examples, non-examples, but it will provide a way. So if you're sitting there and you're not quite sure what a rubric is, it is a way to clarify content. It is a way to set criteria in order to judge something. That something would be our titles in our library. So we will have a set of criteria that will guide us in book buying, that will allow parents to more deeply understand why we buy books. It will guide us in the removal of inappropriate books based on the community standards. It will guide those challenging books to make sure they understand the community standards and what could be challenged and what could not be challenged. So all in all, this rubric can be used from all aspects. One of the things that's important for people to understand is, I think we had a great deal of confusion with this opt-in, opt-out the other day. I'm going to, and I'm opt-in, Mr. Blocker, I was talking to you about this, about the clarity of an opt-in versus informed consent, what that actually means compared to opt-out.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes,
speak.
Mr. Blocker. Mhm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mrs. Hanson, so the terms opt-in and opt-out, those are not legal terms. Those are more terms of procedure. What the board and their policy, because the policy is controlled by the board, is really to ensure there's informed consent, that parental rights are protected. That's what's required under the law. So the policy that y'all have developed ensures that there's informed consent, that parents are aware that there may be potentially damaging material there. The wording is something that I don't believe has been finalized, but your policy is consistent with Florida statute. The verbiage of opt-in, opt-out, those could have different meanings to different individuals. Those are not necessarily legal terms that we would rest on. What would be important is that the board uphold Florida statute and ensure that parents have informed consent, because that's the idea behind that, is to make sure as a policy that the board's policy is consistent with Florida law. I understand there's been some questions about the opt-in, opt-out, what those terms mean. There will be a procedure that follows whatever policy that y'all set. But the policy that y'all have in its draft form is consistent with Florida law and does uphold informed consent.
Okay, so this is what I want to say. And it was really hard the other day in the workshop because I was unprepared for changes that were made that night, and I hadn't really wrapped my mind around what I was going to say. I'm just going to go on record to say informed consent means that we tell parents what we know about our library. We don't allow the kids to go in first and check out books. We literally tell parents what is in our library. The reason I say that is 32 titles were removed last week. We have 40 more challenges. We have over 300 before that 32 titles that were removed. This isn't banning books. I have read at least half of these books, and this is straight up obscene pornography that should not be in the hands of children. The fact that we are kind of like, I'm not sure who's on the fence or who's not on the fence, but if my kids go into a library, I need to know that I'm okay with them going into the library. The way we did it last year was the way we should do it again. The second time you do something, it's much easier. Parents know. In addition, to help with informed consent, I did ask for technology to have, when a parent goes into Parent Portal the first time, a form. And that form, other counties have videos to show parents how to click one of the 3 boxes. I have full faith in parents. I taught nearly 20 years, and parents returned what I needed. Some needed a little tugging along, but we get what we need. We need permission to watch a movie. We need to make sure our kids are highly secure on the internet. It does blow my mind a little bit to think that we don't need any type of security on our libraries when we know for a fact that 32 books were removed last week. And so I'm here to say that I'm in for informed consent, which means prior to a student stepping foot into a library, they simply read about their options, a full access, unlimited access, limited access, or no access. But before they step in, they need to know that there's a chance that they will read, there's a chance they can find a book with sexual activity. There's a chance they can find a book with glorifications of weapons and rape and detailed drug use. They need to know that there are books on theories that their kids, they may not want their kids to read. And I feel like it's our obligation to make sure that parents are at least informed. And the last thing I wanted to say was, policy is not for cleaning up the mess in the libraries. That is procedure. And it is one area that we have spent very little time about, and I'm not even sure what we're doing actually to make sure we're cleaning up libraries. I have heard from some media specialists, but I think there needs to be a concerted effort, a plan, to get through the books in our libraries, to make sure it's clean and be done with it, and have this rubric to make sure it stays that way. And that would be procedures, and that would be in the upcoming procedures manual. And so that's what I wanted to say. I have no qualms with the policy as it stands, the 4 pages that we talked about at the workshop. I just wanted to make clear what seemed like it was very confusing at the workshop about parents deserving, and under Florida law, having informed consent. Okay, that's all I wanted to share.
Do I have a motion on the consent agenda? Can we get a motion in a second and then we can have discussion? Okay.
I move.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. Skipper.
Approve of it, whatever.
And do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Ms. Clark. I'm sorry, from Ms. Bola. All right, discussion, Ms. Skipper.
I just want to be clear, because right before we left at the workshop, I asked why we couldn't do that, right? Why we couldn't just put that in there? That is exactly what you're asking to still do, correct? You're not asking anything differently than from
No.
what happened?
Before, so
I just
someone.
want to make sure I'm understanding.
It is kind
you.
of confusing. So someone made clarification. Someone in the room asked a question. Basically, the question was, can our kids be in the library on the first day of school? And the district answered yes. So that's not informed consent because we haven't told the parents. They haven't opened the portal. They haven't went in to say, I'm okay with my kids seeing these mature topics, so it's okay. That's when it went astray for me, was the fact that the district is offering levels of access, and that's great. But none of it should happen until every parent is aware of what their child may find in the library. So if everybody's going in the library on the first day of school, we have not contacted a single parent. That is not informed consent. It's just not. It's that simple.
So, but we were going to do that through IT, through Synergy, because I know when you do your like nurse form and stuff, that's given like the first week of school, correct? Or before, whatever it was.
Or if you were going in to get your student schedule, for example, which you would have to do to figure out where you're going the first day, they would then have to fill out the form.
Okay, so we will be giving this form prior, and the kids cannot go to these libraries or to check out a book unless they have this form signed. We decided that we were going to do it. They could check out a book, they just couldn't check inappropriate content out, correct? But you are asking no book be checked out until we inform them, because we
Correct.
haven't written,
Yeah.
we
So
haven't actually informed them
in an ideal world,
without that click of a button.
exactly. So here's the difference, Ms. Skipper. In an ideal world, 2 years from now, we've gone through all our books. We have community standards. We buy books that are appropriate. All the bad books are out. The problem with what you heard is that we're making them aware of what we know about. The mature content books are the ones that we've discovered, taken off the shelf, and put in a safe place. The consent needs to tell them that we know there's more in the library and we have not found it. And if you're okay with your child going in there, then we will respect that parental right. But they have to know. Matter of fact, we have a citizen who has been reading books and doing challenges, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of challenges. And 32 of them were pulled from the shelf last week. So are we to say that we should not tell parents that we had 32 books, obscene pornographic books, pulled last week, but it's okay for your kids to go in there until I get permission from you? That doesn't make any sense to me.
And I guess the concern is even though some of these media specialists may or may not know what's spicy, or I know we keep using that word,
Well,
but
we
it's
don't-
just
they don't
stuck.
know
Okay,
yet.
so I guess the concern, or what would be your concern, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to understand and make sure everybody gets what everybody's saying too, is that even though the district wants to allow them access, just not to the spicy books, Ms. Hanson is saying that sometimes we may not know it's a spicy book because we don't
know.
We haven't necessarily read it for
We-
like the example.
we haven't found
of
them yet.
Right, okay, so. Okay.
So I want to interject here that I think from what we have found, most of the questionable or the books in question are at the secondary level.
Mhm.
And All at high schools? Okay. And I don't believe that at the high schools, the media center is a class, correct? So it's, if a student goes to the library, it's on their own volition. They're not taken by a teacher. So I hear what you're saying, and I think that it wouldn't be an issue like it would be at an elementary school where library is a resource and they go weekly, to make sure that that form is filled out prior to students checking out books at the high school level.
So,
And you're right, last year, elementary they were all enrolled, and teachers took the kids, and they have special sections for K through 3. And we did that last year. Everybody was automatically enrolled in elementary, and last year, we did get permission for secondary schools, and I'm just asking it stay the same way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Bossi, did you have something to add?
No, I left the workshop believing that we kind of landed on the idea of 4 different types of access for parents. The parents could choose general access, which means, hey, my child could check out any book, but if it's inappropriate, if it's flagged as inappropriate, then I don't want my child to check out that book. That's kind of general access. Then we had limited access, would be I wanted my child to check out books, but I don't want them to check out these books or a certain type, and they could even specify things of horror, things of violence, things of profanity, or whatever the case might be. And then we looked at no access. Of course, parents have the right to no access whatsoever in the library. And then there's unlimited access, no matter what's there. As a parent, good with that. We also, the board, there was discussion about having a disclaimer within the policy. And if you notice, the policy itself has a disclaimer, and it references the community standards saying, hey, it may be that a book does not meet your family values. And it could have the following topics in it, and it specifically lists horror, glorification of weapons. I forget there's like 10 different topics that are there. So I think the way that I left the workshop believing that the board was thinking about this was that a student that wanted to check out a book and they would all have their permission forms in, ideally, right at the very start of school, because you have to look for your schedule in order to know where you're going when you go to school. Therefore, you would have to fill out the access. But let's say that a student did not have that filled out. They would then have general access, meaning they could check out books that are not been flagged. The ones that are flagged, they would need expressed parent permission in order to check them out. And that's kind of the way the discussion ended.
And Mr. Brodsky, right there is where we go wrong. Your parents don't know about it. Great for all the parents to fill it out. Your parents don't know about it. They don't fill it out, and you can go in anyway. The form doesn't work that way. General access without parental permission. We don't have clean libraries. Why would we let them go in without parent permission? This is a part, everything was great up until that point. Some parents will fill it out, and then you're saying, well, they don't get around to it for whatever reason. Their kids still have general access. But what about the books we don't know about? We had a media specialist have a kid bring a book with pornography in it to her. Were the parents contacted? I mean, this is the thing. They're going to find it. If we don't find it, they're going to find it. Are we saying, and this will be the last thing I say about this, general access is great once the parents gave them permission to do so. They are not our children. State law says that we are supposed to give informed consent. If we show SEL videos, informed consent. If we're doing health, like 7 Mindsets, we're supposed to have informed consent. So why, when we have to have informed consent for everything else at school, would we not get informed consent from a parent before they enter a library? So what we're doing is mixing up two things. I love the access. I love all the points. I love all that, everything you said about that, the different levels of access. But the parents need to know first and then choose what level of access
they want for their child. And so that's,
And I think that's a procedural thing. I don't think that's written into the policy. So I think that's something that we could agree consensus-wise as a board for direction when we go into the procedures of rolling out this policy next school year. So does anybody want to add anything?
I want to make sure, which I'm assuming it's obviously okay because we've got it up, but with the verbiage that we have added and we've talked about, that meets state law as of now before procedures and whatever we decide to do moving forward.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that is correct. So the state law requires informed consent. So the policy, again, you have procedure and you have policy. And I understand this has been, all of y'all have put a lot of work as board members into this in conjunction with the superintendent and staff. But the policy is y'all are responsible, the board is responsible for policy. So y'all's policy has to be a couple of things. It has to be consistent with your wishes because it's your policy. It also has to be consistent with the law. The law requires informed consent. So this policy does have informed consent. Now, the procedures of how that consent is delivered or how that consent is received, that is something that legally is responsibility of the superintendent. So that is his responsibility. One of the challenges is, again, how do you do that with parents? And one of the ideas that was brought up, and I think Mrs. Hanson, you talked about it, and actually all of y'all did, Mrs. Skipper, I think you referenced it as well, the analogy, if you go to a doctor's office, there's all the forms you have to fill out. You can't really get in to see the physician until you've completed those forms and your insurance. I think our technology individuals I've spoken with, our staff is working on that type of process. I don't think what's been determined yet is how that's going to eventually play out. That's a procedural issue that I think our staff is working through. But y'all's policy does have informed consent and is consistent with Florida law. I want to assure you of that. So how that's delivered and how that consent is received and how that's delivered to the individual parent, I think we still have to work out the logistics of that, but y'all's policy is consistent with Florida law. So, and y'all have worked very hard on that and have listened to the concerns that parents have brought. And really that's the whole focus of this policy, is making sure that parental involvement is important and that their wishes are honored in respect to their children. So, thank you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
I could say a lot, but I'll hold off until next discussion.
Okay. All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And I failed to mention at the start, included in the consent agenda were 2 proclamations. One for the Clay County Agricultural Fair Day being on April 12th this year, and one to establish School Social Work Week as March 3rd through the 9th of 2024. All right. The next item on our agenda is the CCEA update. We have Miss Heather Weaver.
Hello, Miss Kidwell is on a well-deserved vacation, so I'm just going to read our CCEA bargaining announcement for 24-25. CCEA is announcing our request to bargain the instructional contract for the 24-25 school year. We are hopeful that an early bargaining to our full book negotiations will result in an early settlement. Bargaining goals will improve working conditions and compensation, which will set CCDS apart as an employer who prioritizes safe and supportive working and learning environments and competitive compensation that will reward, retain, and recruit highly qualified educators for every student in the classroom. We are proud to be the official bargaining agent for Clay County District Schools educators. We have circulated an open survey to all educators in our district. We are looking at feedback and priorities, and they will be reflected in our bargaining proposals. We are also increasing our expertise in our bargaining team by inviting educators in specialized areas to consult and advise on the concerns of their special job requirements. CCA is proud to collaborate with Clay County District Schools to build the workforce necessary for the future of Clay County schools. We are encouraged that school board members in December publicly expressed the desire for involvement in this process. We heard that the need for greater generosity and a whole lot of room for improvement made us very happy. We have heard the school board's heart, and we know that they express their desire to do better for our teachers and to think outside of the box. CCEA is challenging the school district to design a budget that will place compensation for our employees at the heart of the budget process and focus on that as a priority. Increased employee compensation must be a goal built into the yearly budget planning, not an afterthought. We understand that competing budget priorities will always present challenges. However, Clay County School Districts is very excellent at solving problems. You have demonstrated this excellent long-range planning for facilities to meet the needs of our growing county. We feel absolutely confident that Clay County District Schools also has the capacity to innovate a sustainable plan for competitive salaries. All bargaining meetings will be announced to the CCEA members through our email and to the educational community as a whole through our CCEA Facebook. Meetings are recorded and key negotiations available to view online or attend in person. We will do a summary after every set of negotiations. And just my own little side note, recently Clay County was voted #1 in public schools by Niche. I saw it on Clay County District Schools. That is awesome. Our teachers did that. Our administrators did it too. They're awesome as well. Our teachers and our students did that. Let's prioritize them. Thank you.
Okay, I do not see Mr. Roberts in the audience, so I'm assuming we don't have a CESPA update tonight. So, Mr. Broski, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just have a few quick things tonight, only 57 slides. I cut it down from 63. No, it's actually very short tonight. I know everybody's tired. And actually, I'm impressed with Keystone having their kids show up, because those of you that don't know, it's already spring break for kids. So for them to show up tonight, they were already on spring break. The adults have one more day. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about Schools of the Month, as well as our super students, our February highlights, Arts in the School. So our very first, our winners are Tynes Elementary and Orange Park High School, both of those awesome schools. Remember, the winners get $500 for a school initiative, as well as a lunch for their entire faculty, and as well as a trophy that goes. So it's important recognition. Community First has been a great partner, and we thank them for being an outstanding partner. This next month, the theme is motivation. Motivation, so you have time to go ahead and factor in your favorite school. Let me tell you, one of the things that I enjoy the most, probably my highlight, I go out and I see kids in normal classrooms, and you know, they kind of look at me like, oh, wow, you know, this is your job, this is what you do, and I remind them that I do this kind of stuff like 4% of the time. The other 96% is not very glorious in my time frame, my time allocation. But this student here is Anthony, 6th grader, student council president, led a food drive to fully feed 25 local families for Thanksgiving. Outstanding student and representative of the Tynes Tigers. Then we have Tyler. Tyler is the president of Lake Asbury Junior High FFA chapter, a member of the school's basketball team, STEAM student, taking advanced courses, outstanding young man. And the thing about junior high is you can still celebrate in front of their peers, but you don't do that when you go to high schools. So I found that out the first time I went out. Elementary, we go right out into the classroom. Everybody's yelling and screaming. Junior high, same sort of thing. And then when you get to high school, we call them down to the office, right? It's one of those deals. So Kagan is quite the accomplished student at Clay High School. She has nominations for 3 military branches and academies, a congressional nomination from Congressman Aaron Bean. She's a student athlete, a leader in many clubs on campus. You know, this is a young lady that's going places at Clay High School. February highlights, we've already celebrated our teachers, but I really wanted to celebrate also the teachers and the school-related employee of the year, but I want us to celebrate the foundation, right? The foundation, what a great group of people, always behind the scenes. Remember, I always said it takes three groups. It takes the people in the educational system, it takes parents, and then it takes the community at large. Our foundation is second to none, and they do a great job of representing us. Tomorrow is Tool for Schools in the afternoon, so we thank them for all of their hard work. We also had District Science Fair. Okay, there's some winners in the related winners on the board, I believe, and then you had the spelling bee, the district track meets, the elementary track meets, lots of nice competitions. CTE month, college and career fair, we had about 70 companies. Remember, the goal is by the time you graduate, you have the 3 E's. You're employed, you enlist, or you enroll, right? You got to do something when you graduate from high school. The college and career fair, fantastic event, 70 companies, military recruiters, apprenticeships out there. And then Construction Career Day is one of my personal favorite because I get to go on heavy equipment and try that out, and I don't get to do that often. It's fantastic. And they do a great job out there. If you've never been to that event, it's a fantastic event. And our CTE program, I know our first speaker was speaking about CTE programs, and I feel like that is one of the strengths that we have. They're no longer called vocational, but career tech ed. So arts, I want to kind of point this out to you. This is Arts in the School Month, and I know you heard from the folks on the art scene last board meeting. But what you don't realize is there's studies that go behind this. Students that participate in the arts, you'll see they'll have overall their academic success is higher than their like peers, higher test scores, higher GPA, higher graduation rate, reduced dropouts. Being involved in those programs are important for students, and I think the art gallery and all of the accolades of our fine arts department are worth celebrating. Upcoming events, hey, it's a planning day for teachers tomorrow, spring break the week after that. Students come back on the 18th, and then we have Good Friday at the end of the month, and there you can see it visually. So thank you so much. I appreciate the board's work on the book policy. I know it's a challenging environment in which no matter what, somebody will not be happy with that because that's the nature of that. But I think the intent of the board is a good intent. I appreciate all the hard work that everybody's put into it, and I know it's a complicated issue, and I'm proud of the work that you've done.
Okay, school board attorney remarks. Mr. Blocker, do you have anything?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. So just announce, we'll have a shade meeting for our April workshops. That will be March 26th. We'll have some things to discuss then. As far as the SRO agreement, so some of the first steps of that have gone forward. We're finalizing the operating agreement. There's some additional agreements as far as long-range funding that we're going to be bringing before the board fairly shortly here. We also are in the process of starting the first steps for developing the agreements with the charter schools. So this will require y'all as a board to approve those agreements, the charter school boards to approve those, and then work out the funding structure. So that's something that shortly we'll be preparing the board. I'll talk to each of you individually, and we'll start moving forward with that. And the goal is to get this included in time for school starting up in next year. So are there any questions or anything I can answer about that?
All right, thank you, Mr.
All right,
Blocker.
thank y'all.
School board member remarks. Anybody want to start? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Ms. Clark?
I'll be glad to.
Okay.
And I'll try to be brief, and this is just off the top of my head. It saddens me that in the amount of time that we've been talking about books, that instead of what we've had to deal with, that we haven't been able to talk about literacy comprehension and how really low that number, that percentage is. And that's where we need to spend our time. We want all the students to have access to the libraries. But what Ms. Hanson has brought out previously, and I know it sounds great to say Books won't be in the elementary, questionable books won't be in the junior high, but we'll leave it to the high school for those questionable books for the parents to decide. Problem is, two problems. We stopped reviewing every book before it went on the shelf a dozen years ago. And secondly, our vendors started sending in books that don't belong in minors' hands. So we have to address how we're going to deal with that. And that's where the problem lies. It's not an issue of trust. It's an issue of us setting a policy and then being able to work a procedure to where it works in the best interest of the child. And I think that's all we're trying to get at. We've never banned books. We have followed 847, and we have followed 1467, but we set up a procedure previously that didn't work necessarily. It worked as much as it could at the time, but it needs to be improved, and that's what we're in the middle of. But I tend to question, unfortunately, our libraries aren't used. They're not accessed in the junior high and high school level like they should be. And I tend to wonder, do we need 20,000 books? Since we don't know what's on the shelf, do we really need that many? And I'd love to have a wide variety, but what do we do to fix it? So that's just part of the issue. I mean, I love the concept of the Dolly Parton Imagination Library that starts right away for every child. And we need to be working on getting it in every zip code in Clay County and what that will take. So we need to, if it takes money, that's what we need to do. Seems very basic, and we've got people in this community that will help us. So anyway, I won't say any more about that, but other than that, the niche report, it's kind of interesting. I've been hearing it for a long time in real estate. We get the grade from the state on the school, but the niche report is something that parents and realtors look at because it not only involves the school, but it involves a safe community. And where do you want to raise your family? And is that community affordable? So it's taking in 3 goals, basically. And that's what drives people here. And we're very fortunate in Clay because we're still affordable, somewhat, compared to other counties. And we know we've got a safe community, and we know we've got great schools. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Who would like to go next? Ms. Hanson? Okay.
So I'm going to request, Mr. Brodsky, I think I've talked about this before, but before I do that, I'm going to just tell you a little. So when I went to my first FSBA conference, there was a lot of different workshops you could go to, as you guys know. And one of the speakers I went to quoted some data, and that they had researched 2,000 school boards across the country. They were trying to figure out what makes an educational community trust a school board. So they gave them choices. A civil group of people who speak sometimes when they need to, a quiet group of people, or basically a rowdy group of people having a vigorous discourse. And much to my surprise, overwhelming amount of constituents across the educational stakeholders chose the rowdy group having vigorous discourse. And so I think we're missing a golden opportunity at a workshop. I'm requesting that we get documents prior than that day. Maybe 3 days, I don't know. Maybe it's a big document. Maybe we should have it 4 days. The reading initiative, maybe I would like to have that a week before, because it takes time, as Ms. Clark has said, to do your research and process. If we're giving information the day of a workshop, I don't care if you're Einstein, you are not going to have valid questions to ask. You're not going to be able to have conversation with each other because we hadn't seen it yet. And quite honestly, although, Mr. Broski, you know I do call you whenever I need you, I think our discourse needs to happen in front of the camera, in front of our stakeholders, not afterwards on a phone or in an email. And the only way for us to have intellectual discourse about complicated topics would be to make sure we have the material prior to the workshop. And so I didn't know what you guys thought about that, but it's really hard for me to take something out of a manila envelope and follow along and have any idea of what I should be looking at or what questions I could be asking. And I think that questioning is important for the people who elected us to hear us in our thinking. But that was the only thing I was.
So, a suggestion, we could look at moving the workshops later in the week, because I know staff is working on those documents up until the hard stop. So if we had our workshop instead of 10 days before the board meeting, you want to have the workshop the Monday before the board
Or
meeting.
Thursday. That gives you the weekend to research. And
so if currently the way we do it, we meet on Tuesday. So you feel like moving it to Thursday would be sufficient?
so my thing is, if you know 3 months from now or 2 months from now, the reading initiative's coming, we can't get that early. We have to move the workshop.
Well, we've talked about that in the past.
But I mean, I guess it's a good idea though, what you say, because what if it's something new, or what if it's policies we're developing? And then we would be able to look at them before we met. And that's the only way I know how to do business. I mean, it's like teachers making a lesson plan.
Well, I think we talked about how a lot of what we vote on is cyclical. So it's not new. They'll make adjustments to things, but they're existing documents. So what we talked about in the past was, and I'm not remembering whether or not we had a calendar sent out to us so that we could know what's coming up within a typical calendar year, so that if you wanted to review it, for example, the allocation package, that's something that comes to us every March. So if you want to look at how we've staffed this last year, in anticipation of seeing the changes that are coming in the coming March, because that document's going to change, right? I know we had talked about doing it that way in the past, so we could do both things where we have the calendar that shows us what's coming up, and that way if there's things that you want to request to see, you seem to be like a paper-oriented person. You don't want to see it digitally. You want to see it in where you can mark on it.
I can do everything on a computer.
So you're fine with it being digital. So that would be.
I mean, I know the allocation packet from last year, and we'll just use that as the example. It's the changes I want to know about. I want to be able to look at that and then come up with good questions if I have any prior to the workshop. And I think that's a good opportunity for a superintendent to explain what he's, all the amount of work the district put into something. But just having a presentation is really, really hard for me when we never have the opportunity to talk about those changes at that workshop if we have questions. So
the opportunity's there, but what you're saying is you don't feel like you're ready.
Sometimes
to
I
have the
don't know.
conversation there.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it's given to me that day, so.
Right. So would everybody want to look at moving the workshop to later in the week so that there's more time to review documentation? Or are you guys wanting to, last time we tried to do anything to these workshop meetings, it went sideways quickly. So I don't want to do anything until everybody feels comfortable.
Is there anybody else that is interested in seeing things ahead of time and being able to formulate questions or have conversation points or topics prior to the workshop so that we can talk to each other effectively about?
I do agree, like our presentations and stuff. If you know that they're going to speak to us, why can't they send that PowerPoint to us ahead of time? Or I know not all documents are ready and prepared, but something. So I do get what you're saying, because you aren't prepared to do a robust conversation. Not always, anyways. So I don't even necessarily know that you need to move it. I just think that if you know who's going to speak, I mean, they've got several days to do they're gonna do their PowerPoint anyway, so can they do it a couple of days ahead of time?
And when you look at the green circle in here, most everything's turned in prior to that day of the workshop. A lot of times 70%'s done before, 80%'s done before.
You know, sometimes contracts haven't been reviewed by that point because they haven't gone through the entire process. Sometimes the changes to a document, like I can tell you the allocation document in particular is going on through the weekend to get us to Monday, to get us to Tuesday, because we're constantly adjusting based on student need, numbers, et cetera. So we could, how about this suggestion or idea? When it's a major document, we could send you the current version of it to remind you, hey, here's the current version. And then you can study that. Then the only thing you would have to really focus on is the changes that have occurred
that's
to that
true.
document.
But we had like new departments for ELL.
Yeah.
There was a major changes done this time around. It's not always like that. And I know it's a working document. It's not a cut in stone, but I know last year we got the reading initiative, which was brand new. You guys had just developed it the day of the workshop. And so there are times when, if we're going into this new policy role we're about to start, there are times we may want to be more prepared to have that
Yeah,
conversation.
we'll work to get you stuff earlier. I hear what you're saying. I think we tried to do that earlier. Like, for example, the presentations that we gave you the presentations many months before we're actually voting on them in an effort to do what it is you're asking. So I totally get it. And we'll do the best that we can with it.
Great. So Ms. Clark, Ms. Hanson have spoken. Ms. Skipper?
Excuse me, guys. I have really bad allergies right now, and they're getting the best of me. I guess I just want to leave it pretty simple. February was a busy month. This month is even busier, I feel like, and even next month. It's like things all pile up. I want to thank Ms. Hanson for your efforts for the media policy. Those in the district who worked alongside to help. And I guess I'm looking at my notes. I'm sorry, guys. Everybody's covered mostly everything. So I just want to say happy birthday to the best coach ever, and that is Coach Benton at Clay Hill Elementary. So I have to say that. I think she's pushing. Probably not. We have family in town, so happy birthday to you, Mom.
All right, Ms. Bola?
As I've said in the past, it's one of the reasons I joined the school board, came onto the school board, was to support our students and to represent our students. And when you were talking about, somebody was talking about giving, or maybe I was going to say Miss Owens, shouldn't do that. Miss Burke was talking about giving students the opportunity to shine. And one of the things that I learned at Florida School Board Association way back when was be present. Be as present as you possibly can in those children's lives as a school board member. And that means getting into the schools. That means showing up. When invited, be there. And I take that to heart. If you haven't heard me in the past school board meetings, then you'll hear me now. But one of the things I got invited to was to go on a visit with Ms. Kokite, who is a teacher with the Clay Virtual Academy. And I thought, how do you go to classrooms for Clay Virtual Academy when they're all online? And I didn't realize how many schools, our high schools, all have a virtual academy lab in their schools that include dual enrollment classes, that include Elevation Academy, and that are overseen by a lot of different people. And it was fascinating to me to see how our Clay Virtual Academies push into the schools and provide opportunities for high school students and junior high students to gain that experience and to gain those credits in a variety of different ways. Fascinating. And it's sometimes one period a day They are in, they take the class. If they have questions, there's a teacher there to help them. And it's sitting in a classroom, you might have CVA students here, you might have dual enrollment students here taking college courses, and then you might have elevation students who just need that extra little push to get those classes. So thank you, Ms. Kokite, and the whole CVA faculty. That was a fascinating visit. If any of you have that opportunity, take full advantage of it. Music in our schools, Oakleaf Jazz Night and Oakleaf High School and Oakleaf Junior High always collaborate to get the concerts together prior to the presentations. That was huge. Ms. Hanson and I enjoyed phenomenal music, and hearing from the teacher from the high school, yes, they did get superiors at state. So huge, that totally excellent. Our hospitality CTE program. You gotta love Fleming Island High and their hospitality program, and seeing the students put on a mock wedding. And you think, yeah, right, whatever. No, they had invitations, they had caterers, they had equipment, they had collaboration with photography students at the high school, the music students at the high school, the other hospitality students. A lot of these students were saying, oh, I want to go into hospitality and plan things and stuff. And they had to put together a wedding. And some of them have decided to try other careers because they realized the absolute skill it takes to put all of this together. Even the ASL, the American Sign Language students were there doing the entire ceremony. No, 2 students did not get married. However, they did have a bride and a groom, and they had ring pops for their rings. So it was, but they also had it catered for lunch, and they invited us to enjoy an absolutely perfect day on the banks of the St. Johns River. In the same area, Spring Park School. Here again, going in and seeing the ideas that some of our teachers have, a 2nd grade class doing a wax museum of Black History Month people. They came back from lunch. I happened to get there later after construction career days, and they came into their classroom after lunch, and they were sitting and spending 5 minutes of quiet time at their desks. And the teacher said, okay, students, it's time to take your positions. And they went to their science fair type boards, and they became Booker T. Washington and Venus Williams and a variety of people who, Black historians, folks that have absolutely made huge differences in our lives, and they talked about them. And these little 2nd graders were talking about these people as themselves and telling me when they were born, telling me what they were famous for, what they weren't famous for, something special that you didn't know about this person. And they stood there for a straight half hour, not while I just went around the room to hear them, but also parents were in there, as well as other classrooms. Classrooms of kindergartners came through, 1st graders, all the way through 6th grade. And I thought, what a phenomenal opportunity for these children that they will remember for a lifetime. And it taught them so much about being confident in themselves. Huge experience again. And this morning at Orange Park Elementary, my first battle of the books. I was concerned because I hadn't read all of the Sunshine Young Reader Award books, but those students had, and boy, did they show their stuff. Very impressive. So here again, looking forward to March, but more importantly, wishing everybody in the education community here in Clay County a very safe and relaxing spring break.
And I will echo that. This meeting is adjourned.